Welcome to Gaia's Love, a podcast of brief messages to help humanity bridge the gap to the new earth. My name is Vivienne Gerard. It is my delight to be a scribe for consciousness today, sharing the wisdom that flows through from Source. Here we go. Episode 114. It is Thursday here in Cincinnati. Chilly. We have some little snow flakes that are floating around, and more snow in the forecast for this weekend. It's kind of gray out, and it's a good day to really sit with how much has already been shifting and moving for us as we've stepped into the new year. I read a post this morning by my favorite astro mama, and she was just talking about the way that the planets are aligned right now, and you'll have to read her post to get all of the details. But she was just sharing, there's so much completing in who we have known ourselves to be, and in order to step into all that we're going to become, all that we came here to contribute in the world, there's releasing and healing and integration that is all happening at the same time. And when all of that is shifting and moving very rapidly, it can make us feel wobbly or disconnected or misunderstood or isolated. There are all these words that she was using that were so relevant for me when I was reading her post. And so as I was preparing for this podcast, I knew I wanted to share this Zen card that I love, that I picked for the new moon, this new cycle that we just started on Saturday, and it's going to carry me in this arc that I do each month into the new moon in a few weeks. And when I do that card draw, the card that you select for yourself shows the energy, the feeling of where you are in the moment of that new moon. And then you pull a card for the energy you want to be in by the next new moon. So in the 1 month lunar cycle, where you were to where you want to be and how you will get there is determined by the cards you pull in between. And so I anchored in this energy of new vision. The new moon is when I launched my hashtag I am here now Gaia campaign, which is so much about connecting to our planet, awakening to how our planet heals us, and allowing our human bodies to be recharged by the energy of the earth. And so new vision felt so appropriate, and I put the card down. I was like, yes, this is the card. It's all about claiming something amazing in the world and then anchoring that energy in. And the arc that I'm moving towards is Source at the other side, how to connect more deeply and firmly in with my relationship with Source, God Creator. And so I've been feeling the power of the words new vision, and also noticing how there's so much more to that. When I'll read the description of the card in a moment. But when I think of new vision as a general term, if you think about your eyes, for example, when people have cataracts and then they go in to have the cataract removed, their vision is new again. It's improved. It's taken back to its original ability. And so the world looks different. Everything that they're looking at appears to be fresh and new again. But they are the same eyes underneath, just with the layers that had grown on top of the eyes removed. And as I was looking at the description of the Zen card again before starting this podcast, it's so much our journey of stepping forward as leaders and claiming new visions and holding those vibrations of energy really steady for everyone else, so that there can be these huge shifts in consciousness on our planet. In order to do that, we need really deep roots. We need to be able to stand so strong and so steady in our path and know who we are trying to hold a new vision without knowing what our own vision is, without knowing our heart, our soul, our mind, without being in full alignment, we can't hold that vision steady for lots of people. We can't expand the vibration of that vision. And so when I was looking at the Zen card, I was noticing how it's so grounded. The energy of the card itself has roots. It has this deep landing energy underneath the figure of this man that's stretched out to the heavens, to the skies. And underneath that figure of this man is the shadow, the sketch underneath of a man crawling on all fours. Just the evolution, like we begin our movement towards new visions by crawling, beginning in small steps, taking the one next movement forward, and then eventually we are strong enough in our path and strong enough in our knowing that we stand all the way up and we can stretch our heart chakras open to the sky. And the card shows that evolution. The new vision doesn't just suddenly pop out. It arises, it evolves from old vision, from old knowing, from the original source. It evolves into something new that has not existed before. So, why do I bring all of this forward? We are talking about heart-based leadership, or we have been this week. And as I've been tuning into that, the work of the heart, we're always healing old patterns and old stories and releasing what isn't serving and opening our hearts wider and wider and wider. That is the whole point of being a soul in a human body, is to love more, to experience the expression of love in the human form, and then all of the other beautiful, juicy things we get to do along the way. When we open our hearts wider and we are rooting firmly in through our feet, and we're fully present in who we are, the stuff that we haven't looked at or thought about sometimes starts to come up from those roots. So our stories from childhood, our patterns that are rooted in the old visions, the old knowings, the old ways, all of that stuff that sits underneath that we don't normally look at. When we take the cataracts off and we open our heart chakras to the world and we're like, yes, new vision, the stuff that has been below suddenly starts to come up to help us clear our roots. It's like here at our home this past weekend, we have all these beautiful tall trees on our property, and then there's all this honeysuckle that's been growing around them, and my husband has been wanting for a while to clear out this brush, clear out the honeysuckle so the trees have more room to breathe and grow. And so we did a huge amount of clearing this weekend, just cutting and bringing it to the chipper and chipping and really trying to get some of the growth out so that the trees would have more space. It's the same for us in our healing, in our path. If we are stepping onto bigger stages, as we step onto bigger stages with our work, as we express ourselves in bigger ways from our heart, the places in our heart that have some tangled or brush, or the roots that have been holding us back or limiting us in our journeys, are going to be visible because we have better vision, clearer vision. They're going to become visible so that we can feel them and heal them and release them. And so that is what I've really been looking at for myself today is, what are the old patterns that have held me back in my beliefs about people with big visions? We have all seen examples of those who have started movements and become out of integrity. I've talked about this in other podcasts. How do we step onto stages where people are wanting to connect and learn and be in communities that are loving and empowering and uplifting? In order to do that, our own walk, our own paths need to be really in alignment with that vibration. And so it has been bringing up in me some fear about, am I that? Can I be that? Can I hold that? As my path evolves and my work evolves, am I strong enough to sustain my integrity even as I expand my audience? How do we walk this path and hold this new vision and not ever fall out of alignment with that vision? Is that even possible? And how do we do that? How do I do that? And so that's some of the brush, the honeysuckle that is coming up inside of me as I sit with this idea of holding vision for myself and for others, leading a movement. So I will read you the card. What I find with these Zen cards is sometimes I get it immediately, and sometimes I've got to come back and reread it over and over again, which is the joy of philosophy and wisdom. So I'm going to read it to you. If there are pieces you don't immediately get and you have to go back and re-listen to them again, don't feel alone. I have read this card many times myself. All right, and I'll share the picture on the Soulshine Tribe, in the Soulshine Tribe, so you can see the image. It's extremely powerful. All right, new vision from the Osho Zen Tarot deck, the Transcendental Game of Zen. When you open up to the ultimate, immediately it pours into you. You are no longer an ordinary human being. You have transcended. Your inside has become the inside of the whole existence. Now you are no longer separate. You have found your roots. Otherwise, ordinarily, everybody is moving without roots, not knowing from where their heart goes on receiving energy, not knowing who goes on breathing in them, not knowing the life juice that is running inside them. It is not the body, it is not the mind. It is something transcendental to all duality that is called Bhagavat, the Bhagavat in the 10 directions. Your inner being, when it opens, first experiences 2 directions, the height, the depth. And then slowly, as this becomes your established situation, you start looking around, spreading into all other 8 directions. And once you have attained to the point where your height and your depth meet, then you can look around to the very circumference of the universe. Then your consciousness starts unfolding in all 10 directions, but the road has been won. The commentary, it shows this image I was describing of a man crawling, a human crawling, and then the body standing above that human crawling with the legs wide and strong, planted in like a warrior pose, and the head leaning back and the heart chakra wide open to the sky. Around the figure of the human, there's a square, and then on top of that, stacked on top, a triangle, and then around the triangle and connected to the square is this big circle. And then there's all this energy moving in the card with all these different colors. It's a really powerful card, so I encourage you to look for it when I post it in the Soulshine Tribe. Here's what it says. The figure on this card is being born anew, emerging from his or her earthbound roots and growing wings to fly into the unbounded. The geometric shapes around the body of the figure show the many dimensions of life simultaneously available to him or her. The square represents the physical, the manifest, the known. The circle represents the unmanifest, the spirit, pure space. And the triangle symbolizes the threefold nature of the universe, manifest, unmanifest, and the human being who contains both. Now you are presented with an opportunity to see life in all its dimensions, from the depths to the heights. They exist together. And when we come to know from experience that the dark and the difficult are needed as much as the light and the easy, then we begin to have a very different perspective on the world. By allowing all of life's colors to penetrate us, we become more integrated. Yeah, what I sit with, what I feel or know to be true for myself is the leaders that that I respect the most, that I trust, that I implicitly would follow, are those that have made mistakes, those that talk about the lessons they have learned and the path they've been walking, and it not always being this easy, perfect existence, that they understand the contrast and can share how they've navigated through those. And it feels important to me to talk about those moments, to be or provide the example of how I also question. I show up in this space and do my clearing and my alignment and my meditation to be ready to share whatever is going to flow through me. And I'm also this human who questions and wonders and holds myself accountable, to really high standards of integrity. So, yeah, let us keep pondering and see where it's going to take us. I encourage you also to read Astro Mama's post if you are feeling that same major energies just moving and shifting. Really allow yourself the resources that guide you through those moments like I do. All right, I will see you tomorrow. Thank you for tuning in to today's vibration. Let's take this message of pure love out into all of our communities and continue expanding love here on Gaia. So much love from my heart to yours.